of that.
Yeah, we are live now. Welcome to
Oh,
DevTips
thanks for
with
the warning.
Travis and
What's
Max.
up, everybody?
Hey, so what are these blinking lights? What are these cables and wires and fingers? This is a video
They
that I
know.
wanted to share with you. It's a 5-hour long video that I made on my channel, Little Music Boxes, and it's vibes. So you guys who are listening to this and you're learning about Little Music Boxes for the first time, this is a video you can watch and do your coding projects for 5 hours straight. Focus music. You don't need to watch these fingers. You don't need to look at these blinking lights. Just enjoy these flipping jams.
Did you
5
produce
hours.
all of this with the Korg Volca?
It's all
Is
just
that
a
what that
Volca
is?
sample, yeah. Just different kind of loops, just playing different vibes. See right there, I turned off the looper and then let the sample run a little bit longer because it's just the sample is cutting its own self short. It's replaying itself over and over again.
Mhm.
So when I press stop on the player, the sample player, the sequencer, it'll like have this interlude
Mhm.
and other things like
tight.
that. Yeah.
Those look pretty fun. I've never played with the Korg Volca.
Oh man, the sample is my very favorite, and also it's designed really well in terms of like the aesthetic of it. It kind of like is supposed to mimic a classic MPC, 2000. So it has like the same colors and the same kind of like vibe of it.
Same vibe. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty tight.
So I wanted to start with this video here that I produced. Man, how long ago? Let's see, 4 years ago. I also love lo-fi chill hot beats to study / relax too from Mr. Peanut Butter.
I like how you write your own fake quotes on your own
Well,
video.
do you know who Mr. Peanut Butter is?
No.
Have you ever seen the cartoon BoJack Horseman?
I think I've seen a couple episodes of it. I'm familiar with it.
This is kind of fun because I didn't plan this. I'm actually rewatching the whole series right now. I'm like binging this Netflix show, BoJack Horseman.
It's good enough for a rewatch.
A double binge. Yeah, like years later, it holds up. It is hilarious and also like heartfelt and also very depressing and also hilarious. I also love lo-fi chill hot beats to study / relax too. That's a quote from Mr. Peanut Butter. Mr. Peanut Butter is a character.
Is it an actual quote from the show?
Yeah. Mr. Peanut Butter is he's like all the characters, well, not all the characters, but they live in this world where many characters are like animals, like human animals, like basically animal heads on human bodies. And Mr. Peanut Butter is a Labrador, a golden lab. And he's like endlessly positive and endlessly like, just like, he's a lab, right? Like, and he's like commenting about how he loves this stuff. Anyway, yeah, kind of a fun way to start the show because we also had a really good live stream. I'll pause this now, stop sharing. We had a good live stream this Tuesday. And this was, you were the captain of that show, and we did some coding tutorials. You want to talk about that? What was that like for you?
It was fun. We went through using the GSAP animation library to animate branded assets and SVG files, which was very fun. And this Tuesday, we will be going through some more CSS grid stuff and laying out a fun, unique grid, endless scrolling grid.
Oh, the one that kind of floats in the example that we had seen. Okay, cool. Yeah. We got a little preview of it on Tuesday, so it'll be cool to see how you did that. It floats endlessly. Do you have to have a lot of images to supply the kind of design?
Just enough to cover the screen.
So yeah, so it'll loop pretty quickly if you only have like 5 images or something.
Yeah, I mean you could have 2 that are large. And then just loop those 2. But it really, it's just as long as it covers the viewable space.
And that's done with the CSS grid. They looked so, bespokely placed.
The placement of them is done with CSS grid. The looping animation you can do with just CSS or with I like to use GSAP. It's already in the package, so I just use it for everything. It's pretty performant.
GSAP, pow, pow. That's what it sounds like. when it saps.
Yeah. But yeah, it is just a matter of like duplicating it and then looping it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well, that's cool.
we're gonna walk through it on Tuesday.
Yeah,
And
I'll tune in for that. I'll show up.
Mhm.
Hopefully I have a
Nice.
vacancy in my schedule I could peek in. And Jana should be there too. And Jana's not here right now.
Oh, yeah.
She is off enjoying a sandbar. Do you know what a sandbar is? I've never been to a sandbar.
Sandwich.
Sandwich. Dude, I do
sandbar.
enjoy a sandwich though. Come on. What's your best sandwich? Just real quick, like hard-hitting questions.
A Reuben.
You're into a
hands
Reuben? Do you
down.
make one? Do you make your own Reuben?
One could make one's own Reuben, but I prefer to get one at a legit.
Okay, you answered that with like a royal. Like one could get one's own Reuben.
If one must, one could.
Dude, I love a Reuben, man. There's this Reuben in California. Every time I go, I try to stop by this place and grab the Reuben.
Yeah, a good deli.
Oof.
I fucks with a good deli.
Yeah, there's not much of that out here where I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good pastrami al rye. Good Reuben.
Dude, is rye bread just in general is what's up? Marble.
Yeah, sourdough.
Yes.
Come on now.
Come on. Okay, so let's go into the meat of the show. I wanted to show you some charts today.
Let's look at charts.
Let's look at charts.
Yeah.
And these charts, I drew these charts 20 minutes ago. But I was thinking about them as I was paddling this morning. I was surfing and I was like, I can't find any good, because I texted you earlier this week. I was like, let's show each other charts.
Mm-hmm.
I like charts because they're
that's a beautiful chart.
Neatly packaged. Don't make fun of my chart. They're neatly packaged information. Really, you know what I mean? It's like communicating a lot with a little.
Yeah.
That's why I like charts. They're very
infographics.
Yeah. So this is a very simple chart, and this chart is I have two things that I want to talk about with it. The first one, sometimes we call this one a double diamond.
Bad ears. It's like a Rorschach test, but I'm Batman, so I only see that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go to this next. I'm gonna add some labels.
What is this beautiful chart of?
Two bat ears.
Okay.
Let me add some labels. Okay. So this is like the design process or the creative process, and usually when you're creating anything, it will involve these steps. And the reason that they're aligned to these these lines, like the up and down, is because there is a direction here of what you're kind of doing, the function that you have in each of these steps of design. So when you're starting a new design problem, I went too far. Oh no, don't look at my chart. Hold on, that's the next chart. Okay, I won't click it. Jeez, I gave a spoiler there. This first area, usually when you're starting a design project, you're gonna like try to familiarize yourself with the space, and maybe that's just learning the customer. What are they? What's their product or what's their goal? Or if you're like just working on a long-term like an app, or even like you're designing a house, whatever. Like you're just trying to figure out what are the parameters of the job to be done. What has come before? Maybe there's some good competitors, market research, things like that, asking people what they think about this space. But really, you're traveling up this line and you're informing yourself. You're growing in awareness and knowledge and kind of just filling the bucket full of research, right? And this is a fun part of the design process. And then after you kind of hit a point where you're like starting to hear the same things over and over again, or maybe you kind of feel like you have enough in the bucket, you have to synthesize that. What have we learned? And this synthesized part can look like a lot of different, it can look different each time. Sometimes it's just sitting back in your armchair and thinking about it. Sometimes it's talking to other people about what you've learned, or you're ruminating, maybe doing a write-up. This is helpful. Doing a report of your research can be very helpful, especially if you're working in the context of a group. But synthesis is so important in terms of research, because you're not just filling the bucket up with just like all this information. You're trying to synthesize literally and narrow it down to the most poignant and cogent parts of what you've been researching that is applicable and usable in the design process. And then the next part, you're going to go back up again. We're going to do more explorations. We're going to go wide and big and broad, and we're going to start thinking horizontally and start thinking, orthogonally, and really try to try all these different avenues. Oh, how we didn't even think this route, but this is a part of design. Design is supposed to think big. Now, after you've had this wide exploration in the design process, the next part is refining, editing that down into the solution that you're going to be presenting or publishing or what have you. So design is really this process of expanding and contracting and filling and filtering. Filling your bucket up with information, filtering it down to what's most important, filling up your mind with design possibilities, filtering down to what you want to take action on and publish. So this is my first chart. I have another version of it that I already gave a spoiler about. Don't rewind, everybody, if you're listening live. But let me hear your thoughts on this. Have you seen this kind of chart before?
Similar. I was actually just looking for something that I made to convey something very similar to.
Oh yeah.
To some clients, yeah.
Do share if you have it, if you found it.
I'm trying to find it. Yeah.
Okay.
But I did lay out this, essentially an infograph, walking through these steps.
Charts are so good, bro.
Yeah. It definitely helped, but I'll have to find it. But yeah, I have seen similar things.
Yeah. And it makes so much sense. And I'm kind of talking like 101 right now. It's like design 101. But if you haven't had somebody spell it out to you in this clear of a way, it might be really, really informative.
Cycles,
yeah.
And also knowing at what point do you revisit one. I think what a lot of people get in their head is that you do this and then you do that. You do the specs delivered to the client, then you do this. And a lot of people don't realize sometimes you have to go back to the research phase, or, you go back to the beginning of the design phase, or, you kind of have to repeat certain stages at certain points if you get stuck.
Very good
And I
point.
think that having an idea of when people know at what point to abandon the current stage and revisit research or synthesizing that research, that's an important thing to know.
Yeah, it's a never-ending cycle, really. It never, yeah. And actually, it's kind of like a scalable cycle too. There's big moments where you're like, oh, I'm in the research phase, but all along the way you're synthesizing. All along the way you're thinking about how is this relevant? What are our possibilities? So you're designing and refining what you understand. So it's all there, and it's loops are micro and macro loops. But having it spelled out like this was really helpful to me. The first time I saw this, I was like, yeah, there is a process. So I want to also illustrate the idea that there's some vertical movement here. It's not just horizontal movement. There's vertical, like there's peaks and valleys in the design process. Sometimes you have to climb up a hill. Sometimes you have to skate down the hill and see what's at the bottom, really dig deep. And so I like this visualization of it. Did you find your version?
I can't find it, and I'm still looking for it.
No worries. So I'll move on to the next usage of this. I kept the same Batman ears.
Oh, here it is. I found it.
Here, I'll stop presenting. You present. I want to see what you.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to see yours.
Oops. Let me see here. So I have a couple of them. I love making these types of little infographics.
You do? Yay.
Yeah. Let me find this one. Is this the one that I made? I don't even know if this actually might just be another one that I use, but it doesn't matter because I can. Yeah. It kind of gets the point across. So
nothing really matters.
Nothing really matters. Let's see. Share screen, entire screen, share. And then we've got this guy right here. So this is
Okay.
another example
Wowee.
of a nice thing
We got
where you have,
arrows.
your brainstorming, idea collection, being creative, right? Open minds, no judgment. That's like this open space of exploration. And then define, you know, the the product, the idea, that's specs, right? The content outline, wireframes, requirements, any of that. And then you can move into the design phase. And that's, when you develop these assets, component prototypes, design library. And if that's approved, you go into prototype, where you start developing the product. And when you run into problems there, you often have to go back to the design phase.
Yeah.
And once you iterate between these two stages and you go to test, depending on the problem that you have and the feedback, you might have to go back to the design phase or back to the define phase or even all the way back to the brainstorm phase. But it's kind of once you get to these points, knowing when to turn back and to what stage. And it really depends on the product and the problems that people are running into.
And the
In the
team,
development
right? What is the
team.
how nimble is your team? How
Mm-hmm.
able are they to move back and forth between these phases?
Yeah.
And oftentimes if you're working solo, you can be very nimble. Like I've seen you design
Mm-hmm.
straight in the browser. So like you're or brainstorm. Like the other day, actually
Mm-hmm.
on Tuesday when we were doing those things, we're like, well, what if we do a scale? And then right in the middle of the prototype, you're
Yeah,
designing.
in the prototype phase. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a little different. I think it's a much rarer breed, but it is becoming more and more ubiquitous, like people that are, full stack UX designer, developer type people that kind of live, these two areas are kind of together. Design and prototype can happen simultaneously.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. I guess it's just if you have multidisciplinary skill sets, you can kind of combine those. It's kind of like music, right? Like if you know how to mix, you can kind of be mixing while you're producing.
Yeah.
And you're kind of doing both at the same time. And I think it's a lot of that when you get to like the design and prototype phase. And if you have a good cohesive team, where the designers are the developers and that kind of stuff, you can kind of iterate a lot easier and a lot faster for sure.
Nice.
But I know that's not often the case.
This is a good chart.
It's a fun chart. I think
a fun chart.
It hits on some of the same notes
Yeah.
that we were
Okay.
that you were presenting there.
Let me take you to phase 2 of my chart here.
Oh, there's a phase 2, right?
There's a phase 2 because this chart is universal. It's a universally applicable structure. And I was talking about like the design process here. I didn't put like a label on it, but this next iteration of this chart it's still bat ears, but it's about something a little bit more universal. Something that I thought about, and I talked with one of my friends about this a while ago. We were talking about compression and release. That compression and release is this universal cycle. These are both the same. I just wrote one of them really funny because I thought it would be cool, but it's actually hard to read.
Expand and contract.
Yes, expand and contract, compress, release. Yeah, exactly. And so this is universally applicable, as I said. So let's take for example, what is it like to go through the design process, right? There's thoughts and you're compressing everything, and then you're going to apply it. You're going to release all that onto the page and all that.
Provide me with a good time.
Yes. Well, I mean, also in like relationships, right? So like there's maybe you're going through a stressful moment in your life, like, Mom, get out of my room, and then you're like, oh, Mom, I'm sorry. And you release that, and your relationship kind of grows like this. This is how you study for an exam. This is how, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of in everything is this experience of compression and release. And they require,
thermodynamics are everywhere. Yeah.
Thermodynamics. And they require each other, right? You cannot have release without compression. And so a lot of the times we just want comfort, and we want, stability, and we want this and that, but you can't have comfort without discomfort, and you can't have stability without instability. You can't. They are on the opposite sides of the hill or whatever. So compression and release are this eternal kind of dynamics that we see everywhere. And I really get excited when I am reminded about this, because compression can be uncomfortable. You know, release can be so, whew, ooh, but without compression, you wouldn't have a release. So
Wouldn't have diamonds.
oh yeah, I love that metaphor. So that's my chart. That's my second phase of this chart. But I have another chart. But I'm gonna pause and let you do a chart. We're doing charts today.
That was it. That's the end of this chart.
I think I'm scared to hit the next button. let me remove
You can
it.
unshare your screen and then
Yeah. Yes, that's it. I just went to the next chart
Okay.
after that. But I thought compression and
Okay.
release would be a little bit more of a dialogue. Like, what are your thoughts about this compression and release?
Well, I think that all dynamic systems ebb and flow. Those
there's the
different
max that
pressure
I needed.
systems. it is like almost like a Mandelbrot fractal nature to all systems, that they ebb and flow and that they fill with pressure and expand and contract. That is the weather does it. Weather systems,
Yeah.
our relationships with people, our ideas of things. It is a universal quality of change within an accepted spectrum of change. Because if things ebb and flow too much, they end. Like if people go too far outside of the spectrum of human behavior, they die.
That's right.
So
That's
like
right.
systems break down if they under too much pressure, too much expansion, too much expression. Can actually destroy a system, in both ways, right? Even that release, too much release can lose the fundamental quality and architecture of a system. And ultimately, that is what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah.
These are dynamic systems that are changing over time.
Dude, well said, man. Bravo. I'm so glad that you're a part of this podcast. Dude, that was awesome. Yeah, you're right. Like, it's a part of a dynamic system that would otherwise falter if any side was too. Gosh, you said it much better. I'm not even gonna try to summarize. That's really great, man. All right, I'm ready for your chart.
Okay, I didn't draw a chart. I just picked something that I thought was interesting.
That's awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
But it is an interesting chart, and I think it's fun to actually look at it through the lens of what we were just talking about. Because this chart is actually kind of a series of charts. Let's see, is my screen sharing?
Yes.
Okay, we got some. There we go. So if you just Google your life in weeks, you will find this article from Wait But Why, and I'm sure people have seen this before. It's just visual representation of, a 90-year human life in years. So here's your birth, and this is turning 90. That's your whole life. Each row is a decade.
Wow. Dude.
And then you can visualize your entire life in months, and each row is 3 years. So when you're 30, you're here, right? You're 60, you're here. It gives you kind of an interesting perspective on where you're at. Where you're at in the course of your life.
Yeah.
And the most impactful one seems to be your life in weeks, because it seems to fill up so much quicker visually. Me and you are already down here, so we're halfway through this whole thing, right?
Holy shees.
Yeah. But it is interesting to see and kind of get an idea, like, oh, each one of these boxes is a week of my life. It's gone forever.
When you look at this, do you feel compression or release?
Well, this is what's interesting. Like, leading up to it, there is this compression. And there's probably quite a bit of compression depending on your life as pressure builds.
Yeah.
Depending on if you're fulfilled or if you're happy with who you've become or with your life. There's a more mounting pressure, because those things become more detrimental as you get older, because you're quite literally running out of time. So there is a pressure system that's building up there for most people. And then hopefully it gets released somehow through, it gets, whether you like it or not, it ends. And that is kind of the system
final release,
ending or releasing. Yeah.
Wow.
Here, this is an interesting representation here of the life of a typical American. This chunk of life is elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and then you graduate, and this whole chunk of your life is career, and if you're lucky, this whole last part is retirement.
Whoa, dude.
And Yeah, this is interesting. Average amount of time a couple who divorces will stay together.
Wait,
Which
what average
goes
amount
right
of
here.
time a couple who divorces will average
Yeah,
amount of time?
week. So this is when men first marry on average, right? That like
Okay.
this on average this week in their life between 20, 8 and 30.
Oh, the yellow
About right here.
line is the time together.
And then the time together,
Oh, I see it.
is the average amount of a couple who the couples that get divorced on average last this amount of time. Yeah,
Is it
apparently.
7 years? 30 to
Yeah, it looks like
35, 6?
28 to 30.
I've heard
Yeah, something like that.
7 year hump or whatever. I've heard that phrase a lot where it's like
Hmm.
that's where a lot of people be like, nah, this is not for me.
The average life expectancy for men is here,
Bro.
and for women it's here. So most people aren't even making it the whole way.
Dude, that
Um,
last one is super sobering. Average life expectancy in Sierra Leone.
Oh, that's all the way up here. Yeah, that's in
That's
Africa.
so
Yeah.
wow.
People aren't living as long there. The scary thing though is for an average American, like you look at this and it's all career.
You said scary? Tell me scary.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's such an important aspect of our lives, and so many people are unhappy with their positions in life. I mean, I think that it's probably par for the course of human experience for people to not be doing what they wish they were doing. I think that's almost universal.
Career itself is generally looked upon as something that we don't want to be doing.
I think that it is becoming something that people are realizing they don't want to live their life clocking in and clocking out, especially for somebody else's machine. And we talked about this a little bit last time, but I think that like post-COVID, people worked from home and people kind of realized like, oh, the world didn't end. Like we don't have to live
It was a paradigm
to these
shift for a lot of people.
There was a paradigm shift in social norms of what people thought their life had to be. And I think the next generation coming up, like in general nowadays, the people that are alive walking the planet, especially the ones that are comfortable enough to be in the West, that nobody wants to work.
Nobody wants to work. I've heard that.
Yeah.
So
no one wants to work.
So if career itself is like, it's a red color. Can you go back up?
Yeah,
career
sorry.
itself is red, and we're talking about like maybe people are not wanting this. But if we go up to the rainbow colors above it, the green, I mean, we're starting with that second one, elementary school, middle, high school. These are not, career with the air quotes, but they are on the way, like they are preparation.
Well, this is prepping you for the rest of your life, and then unfortunately the rest of most people's lives is career, is work, and then hopefully maybe retirement for a little while if they're lucky.
If they're lucky, yeah.
But I think the way that I am, hopefully trying to look at life, and I think other people are, is that it's not career here and retirement here. It's actually mixed. It should be red and purple all over, right? Where it's like a mix of work and living well. Like you never have to retire if you're always living well. You're kind of always in this state.
Have you seen that talk by Stefan Sagmeister where he said,
Sagmeister.
Do you know Sagmeister, right?
No, I don't know
the
who
designer. Oh, okay. Stefan Sagmeister is this designer. He is in New York, or at least when I knew about him, he was. But he gave this like, I think it was a TED Talk or something. But he was talking about how a lot of people, they do this. They have their career and then they retirement in two big chunks. And he says, well, what I do with my career is I inject retirement in the middle of my career. And so every 7 years I take 1 year off and go traveling, go exploring, try different skills, try different things. And not like he's like, oh, I'm going on a cruise and trying new cuisine. But he's like, oh, I'm going to try to become a painter now. Every 7 years, he's like doing something pretty dramatic, and he's applying. When he comes back to his career after that sabbatical, he's applying what he's learned to the new phase of his career.
Yeah.
So when you're saying,
I think more people are more people are taking that approach, I think, or trying to, where they're trying to enjoy the time that they have while they have it here instead of waiting till the end of their life to enjoy some time when they're all old and gross and nobody wants us anymore.
How do you do that? Like, how do you accomplish that in your life to try to inject retirement?
I don't know.
It's a tough
I mean,
cookie,
I live,
right?
I live a pretty kind of on holiday all the time style.
Yeah.
Well, I prioritize everything before work. I prioritize like exercise, meditation, the things that I'm interested in, music. Like as long as I do that stuff, then I can work. Work is like the reward for doing the other stuff.
Is that because you
know
really
what I mean?
enjoy work? Work is a reward?
No, I think it's more because I really enjoy life. So and if you want to enjoy work, you kind of have to prioritize the things that are important to you in life. And then, it's the whole like live to work or work to live thing. Like I try to work to live, but I'm trying not to live to work, if that makes sense.
It does.
Do
you feel like
go ahead.
This is kind of like more of like a woo-woo thing, but sometimes I hear about that, like if you put good energy out into the universe, it comes back to you kind of vibe. But it's more like if you don't stress out about money and career and you do the work that you love or things that are interested in, you chase that compression and release in ways that will help you grow along the path, that money will come, that kind of like opportunity will come. Do you think that's true?
I think that it is true. I think that all of the things that people covet about a good career when it comes to like money and like the material possessions, I think most of that is just a byproduct of good work. If you do good work, and all those other things happen, but there should be an asterisk by there, because what does good work mean? I don't know if it's true for everyone that if they just do what they love, money will find them. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Sometimes I hear that stuff and it sounds so nice, but I'm weary of it. But I want to.
There's truth to certain things. Like there is truth to like, like positive affirmations and like focusing on doing what you love. Like if you're doing what you love, everyone is going to spend most of their life stressed out anyway. So you may as well do what you love, right? You're always going to be stressed out about money. So it's like, do I chase the money or do I chase the thing that I love? Either way, you're going to be stressed out about money. Go for the thing that you love. And that's good advice, if you're not in a position where you need to, pay for baby food or something. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but
okay. So you were saying earlier that you inject retirement into career by putting things that you find valuable first before you work. So
prioritizing now instead of
meditating, yoga,
which could be a bad thing. Yeah. But like a lot of the whole retirement is like plan for the future, save up and, buy a house and retire and all this kind of stuff. And then, housing market crashes and you lose everything. And it's like, or the, whatever happens with politics and the retirement funds dry up, right? People don't get to retire. No, actually, our generation, are they going to get to retire? And the next generation, is there going to be a retirement fund? Like,
right. Social Security, right? Like,
Social Security, inflation, whatever they're living off of, are they going to be able to afford to live by the time they're in their 60s or 70s or 80s, right?
So this chart is going to look a lot different to a lot of people because it says 65 or whatever, right? 63. Yeah.
And I think people don't want to wait that long until they can chill in life. They're like, no, I want to chill now. And,
I want to chill now.
There's two things, right? There's one that's very zen, and it's like be in the moment, get as much as you can out of every single moment. Yeah. And then at the end of life, you will have lived a rich life. But if you're not planning ahead for the future, your individual moments can start to suck. So there is like a happy medium where you do have to plan for the future so you don't, destroy your life, but still prioritize the moment actually. When
I look at it does. So like you should try to be as happy as you can today And because so this retirement and then career juxtaposition, and even the school leading up to career juxtaposition against retirement, it kind of feels like, not happy, finally happy,
Yeah, like
Kinda-
slugging through it,
Right.
white knuckling it through life, and then
Right.
that compression and then release, and then it's like, finally I'm
Yes.
old now and I can rest.
Yes. So my wife's grandparents,
Yeah.
her grandfather, he said to her, he said to Jaina, you guys know Jaina, after they retired, he was like, we always wanted to travel, but we were going to travel in our retirement. And now that we're retired, we're too old. Like, we're tired and don't have the energy. And also, so we don't travel. And he's like, that's just like a part of our life that we always wanted that never really was actually a part of our life.
Yeah.
And like, that's crazy to like have that perspective,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
and
when it
travel
comes
is not
down to it, if someone really wants to do something, they do it. Like, they obviously didn't really want to travel that much. They never
Amen. I think
prioritized it.
that's true.
Yeah.
Chaz told me that one time. He said, at the end of the day, people do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to, like,
Yeah, they're like, oh, we don't want to travel now
won't.
because we're comfy, and it's like, yeah, well, you didn't want to travel before because you were comfy, and like,
right,
right.
And travel is just one example, but we're talking about like, what is the dream, the bucket list kind of thing.
Well, that's the thing. I used to work at this art gallery in Hawaii on Maui, and these rich people who were very successful would come in and buy art from famous musicians. We had like John Lennon's art and Ronnie Wood, all this kind of stuff. And I heard it a lot because it was like a music themed art gallery. These people would come in and buy, like, they were successful, they made it, but they would always kind of like regret that they didn't stick to music. A lot of them were like, oh yeah, I used to play guitar and I just don't anymore. Or when I was in high school, I had a band. And I would always hear those people, and I was like, I don't want to say that. Like, I want to make sure I play my guitar every day. Because, and ultimately it is like, I heard that same story all the time, and it's like, well, they just didn't really want to that bad.
Yeah.
Otherwise they would have.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears, but I'm still looking at this chart.
Yeah, there's another one.
I know there's more, but
some other stuff in
Okay. Famous deaths.
perspective. Should we move on from these charts?
No, these are so fascinating to me. This week, my daughter came up to me and I don't know if she was just making conversation or if she's really noodling on this stuff, but she said, would you rather die slowly or die unexpectedly quickly? And I was like, whoa, well.
Unexpectedly quickly.
Yeah, would you rather have like an illness, like a terminal illness over time? And
nobody wants that. Everyone wants a quick smack, you grab your chest, and then it's over.
Everybody wants an execution.
A quick one.
Really?
Yeah. Nobody wants a slow, like, cancer death.
Well,
it's all sad and shit.
Okay. I agree. I think I agree with you, but like the counterpoint is
family's
that, like,
all sad.
I know. The counterpoint is that you have time to say goodbye and you have time to put your affairs in order. No, that doesn't resonate at all with you.
Hey, what affairs do you need? You're dying.
I
no
know.
affairs anymore.
I know. Well, dying costs a lot of money.
I know, and that's the problem. Just do it. Get it out. Get out of here. Get it.
Just. I think that I totally agree. Actually, I told her. I said, I'm not afraid to die. I'm not. There's nothing that I like. No regrets. Like, I don't have them anymore. And it's really. I think it's a very freeing place to be mentally, where you could be like, yeah, I'm living my life the way that I'm happy about, and when I die, come what may, like, maybe that's age, next year. John Lennon is 40, right? When that happens, like, that's fine with me, like, I won't like be like, oh, I wish I made it to 43.
Yeah, well, you'll be dead. You won't be wishing anything.
Straight up, real talk.
But
okay.
Currently, we are alive, and you and I both are right here. We have currently outlived John Lennon, Martin Luther King, Marilyn Monroe, Mozart, and all of these rock stars.
Suck a dick.
We did it.
We win.
We did it. Well, we only win really if we outlive Hitler and Osama bin Laden. We gotta get. We gotta
Dude,
get up
why
here.
do they live
Then
so
we win.
long? Holy sh! Yeah, that's not fair.
Yeah, can't let them win.
We only win if we live longer than Hitler and Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Otherwise,
good.
the Nazis win. Um,
Tiger
yeah.
Woods.
So then they have a bunch of other
There's a
interesting
lot
ones.
of.
Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton's early accomplishments. All of their activity was between 20 and 40.
Okay, slow down. This is some epic accomplishments of these famous people, and a lot of their activity happened between 20 and 35.
Looks like it, or 25 and
Got it.
yeah, and 35. That was
So
like
like we could like summarize that and say like you have some really impactful decades in your 20s and 30s.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the summary of like the takeaway of this chart. Now I'm in
Some
my
people
40s.
They've done there should, I think there is another chart here. Let's see. There is another
Ponder
similar
wait,
chart.
what does that one say? It says ponder the why did the chicken cross the road joke? What
Where?
did it say? On the one of impactful 40s, go back up. There we go. Go up
Here?
a little. Okay. I ponder why did the chicken cross the road joke has such a good run given what it is. It's a good joke though.
That is funny.
Who is the orange? What is this? Oh, this is the orange. Okay.
I think that's just the guy who made this chart.
Yeah, he's being silly.
So
boy.
the green is Newton, the blue is Einstein, and then the orange
like
is
it.
the this guy who wrote this blog entry, who I can't remember his name. What's his name?
Wait, but
Tim
why?
Urban.
Tim Urban. That's so funny. Okay.
Yeah, there was another one though that showed famous people's accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
And it is interesting because you do see people that pop off, like, you know, in these heightened, you know, between 20 and 25 and 35.
Yeah.
But then you see other people that bloom later, right? And I think the biggest examples are like Mozart and Beethoven. Beethoven didn't become known until he was like in his 50s, right?
Right. I had heard this factoid that like the most accomplished composers had over 20 years of failure before they had their first hits or something. I don't know. That's a weird. Maybe I'm getting that wrong, but it was something like that. Like there's a lot of toil involved with being an overnight success takes a long time. Yeah,
and it seems like a lot of people that do most of their good work at younger ages, they don't do as much when they're older. And then other people that kind of blossom when they're older, become successful, they continue to do that well into their old age.
That's kind of like a happy thought.
Yeah, just think happy thoughts, because no matter what, it gets down to this last little block for whoever you are.
Oh,
so
well, let me share another thought. So a while ago, a few years ago, I started doing something called polyphasic sleeping.
Okay, yeah.
Did I tell you about this before?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here.
Okay, and it's an aggressive sleep schedule, which you can get your sleep hours down. So I was able to get my sleep hours down to 4 nights a week, or 4 hours a night. And that meant I was awake for 20 hours a day, where most people are awake for 16 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of like that concept of retire during your career. Like, you know, because when you sleep, you're dead,
getting some
right?
Extra time, you're getting extra.
Yeah,
hours.
That's exactly it. It's that concept of like, I have 4 extra hours a day more than most people, and I'm alive longer. So like it's like I'm living longer than you today, right? And we would say like, oh, he lived a long time, where you're saying like he lived 90 years old, but I was living a long time day by day.
Yeah. But most people live like 40 of those 90 years because they're awake. And you lived 50 of those 90 years because you were awake more.
That's right.
I don't know if those numbers equate realistically, but something along those lines. Yeah.
And I think that that's
you
like
had
a really
more life.
What's that?
You had more life within
more
that time span than what other people can experience.
Yeah.
If they're sleeping more.
Yeah.
You know, but is that true? Because what if someone is really well rested? Maybe they only experience 30 years of waking life, but it's a dope, and they're happy and they're present and they feel good. Versus, 50 years where 20 of them are kind of confused and tired and fatigued. And
your assumption is that sleeping that schedule made me feel not dope.
No,
Oh,
it can though. I've tried polyphasic sleep and I've heard like it is difficult to upkeep.
yeah.
Um, but I guess
Yeah.
what I'm more saying is, quality versus quantity. That's always a question in the equation.
Yeah. And so
Right.
like some people sleep a lot,
Uh-huh.
right? They just naturally they're
I
more
wish I was
sleepy.
like that. Yeah.
You do. You would want to spend all those
Oh, I
weeks that we
wish I could
just looked
sleep.
at. You
Yeah, if I
wish
could sleep well. Yeah, I have horrible sleep.
sleep
Yeah.
is death though.
It's not though.
You're gone. You're knocked
Bad
out.
sleep is shitty life.
Bad sleep is a
Shitty
shitty life.
life is death. Yeah.
Wait, why is okay, yeah. So have good sleep, but you don't need to sleep all day.
No, yeah, nobody should be sleeping all day, But hey, maybe that's what makes them feel good.
Yeah. I'm not here to harp on sleepers, but I guess the principle here is activity. Like how are you spending your
How are you
waking
filling the
moments?
time that you have?
Yeah,
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 exactly. How present
yeah.
are you and how well do you feel? I would take 60 years of good feeling over
Hmm.
and live to 60 and die instead of live to 80 or 90 but feel shitty the whole time.
All right.
Right?
All right.
Like that's the thing
Capture.
about life extension technology and that kind of science. Like it's not
Yeah.
necessarily just about making you live longer, it's about making you live better longer.
Better longer.
Feeling good. Yeah, yeah. Because there's no
Yeah.
point in extending your life if you're decrepit for like another 10 years or bedridden for another 10 years. It's like, what's
That's
the point
right. That's
of
right.
extending that suffering and that loose grip on life?
We have a strong bias in our modern world towards life extension at the expense of everything else. So like we don't let people die comfortably. We just want to keep them alive as
Yeah.
long as possible.
Yeah, horse breaks their leg, you shoot it in its head. A person is dying of like a terminal thing, and we're like, no, you gotta stick here with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so keep the quality of life in your mind as we look at my next chart. I'm ready. Are you
Okay.
ready for my next chart?
I'm ready. We got some questions here.
Oh.
Muhammad's asking, Jaina is off, and then Muhammad asked what I said about. I didn't say anything about Islam. I think you
Yeah.
misheard me.
Yeah, that was just a mishearing. But yeah, Jaina, we talked about it in the beginning of the stream. Jaina's she's at a sandbar, which is like a tropical paradise. I guess they're just gonna float around in
Zanzibar.
floaties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds
Anyway,
fun.
yeah, it does sound fun. So here's my chart that we looked at before. I'm gonna go to the next phase of it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So this is a kind of a fun little chart.
This is a
Start
great chart.
and then and then and then you go to the end. So
Yeah.
this is the chart of life. This is, we looked at your charts just a second ago, and there's this segment here which is like school. And it's like you're on the rails. This is what grade 1 through 12 looks like. This is the chart that we've plotted for you in order to become a good worker bee. That's from here to here. And then you're released into the wild. Like you literally are. Okay, there's this funny statistic about like how much we know about early childhood development. Like we know so much. There's books and books and books and research and research and research about like, child development. And then like you get to a certain point, like past 16, and we don't know shit. it's like how does an adult develop? We don't know anything. Like what is it like to become older? We don't really know anything. And that's like I'm embellishing, but it's kind of true. Like we've studied this so much. We have like we have it planned out and mapped out. And then age 19, 20, 21, you're released out into the wild, and you just have
Once
to
you're on
figure
your
it out.
own. Yep. Pull yourself
And so
up by
your
your
journey
bootstraps.
becomes,
You're an adult man.
becomes like this, and then you end up right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking
cute.
about, it's cute. You like my chart?
It's a good chart.
But I was thinking about the quality of life, what you were just talking about. And I was thinking like this is actually the fun part. And relating back to compression and release, and relating back to the quality of life that you were mentioning is better than the quantity of life. I think that if we could really like have a paradigm that accepts compression, that accepts stress, that accepts that like sometimes life is difficult and messy and the direction you want to go is not working, and then sometimes it suddenly is working, and then suddenly it's not, like that whole thing. I think if we could wrap that around our arms around it and just understand that it's the fun part of life, it's the unexpected.
Hopefully.
Sorry? Hopefully. Well, let me say this. Like, let's say we're watching a film
in a horrible accident, or
but like being in a
the
horrible
messiness
accident
of life, we're sugarcoating and looking at it through rose-colored glasses. Life, we're lucky. We're very lucky that we're not in a war-torn area or anything.
Yeah. True.
And hopefully people that experience like legit tragedy and suffering and stuff like that can figure out how to look back on that and say that it was fun or learn from it. But I would say, for most people in the Western world, that is the fun part. They're not getting their limbs blown off or getting, oppressed by some militant government that's, or, there's just wild shit that happens to people every day.
Yes.
That's one of the things that I love about adaptation. We talked about the Charlie Kaufman movies, and he's like too smug to go see this writer that's putting on like a class, a screenwriting class, and he's like, those classes are bullshit, and his brother's going, so he goes, and the dude is actually dope and legit, and he's talking to Nick Cage, and he's like, oh, but what if the story, nothing happens, like, because that's real life, and he's like, you don't fucking know about real life. He's like, every minute someone's dying. People are falling in love. People are hurting each other. Someone just got robbed. Everything's happening everywhere. It's not happening to you.
Yeah.
But you aren't the world. Like, life is happening to people. And I don't know why I'm going on this diatribe, but
no, I think that's an interesting way to think about it. So this is a writer who's trying to write stories. I've been writing my screenplay. We looked at it a few weeks ago. And it's true that like the things that we're interested in involve conflict. They involve trouble. And how do you navigate it? That's the drama of life. And life is messy. And like sometimes you do get your leg blown off or other horrible things. But like that's the drama. That is the conflict. That is the story.
Yeah.
And if it was just, have you seen the movie WALL-E?
I have seen WALL-E.
Yeah, and there's like no conflict for these people. They're just kind of floating around in their chairs.
Yeah.
Just their life is a straight line, they live and die on this spaceship. Yeah.
Yeah, just this limbo existence.
Right.
Yeah. You know what it was? I think I was being a stickler on the use of language. You said the fun part. Okay. And I think I was just I know you didn't mean it that way. You're like, just, this is a cute chart. This is the fun part. I was kind of drilling and hyper focusing on like, it's not fun for everybody.
That's okay.
That's all.
That's okay. I accept your criticism.
I just want people to know that I hear you and I see you.
I hear you and I see you.
Okay, go back to your chart though.
That was the whole chart.
That's the rest of it.
That was it.
Oh, that was it?
That was the whole chart. Just that life is compression and release. And there's a messy middle, but that's the exciting drama of your life. There's this book by a comedian that I really love. I forgot his name. Who does You Made It Weird?
Pete Holmes.
Pete Holmes. I love Pete Holmes.
You made it weird. You made it weird.
Yeah. Pete Holmes does a podcast, You Made It Weird. He also wrote a book called Comedy Sex God. And has 3 parts to it. Comedy, part 2 is about sex, and part 3 is about religion and God and spiritualism. And he in this book, like there's 1 or 2 chapters which I listen to repeatedly because they're so insightful and powerful. And he talks about that one of the ways that he's able to trick himself into really enjoying that messy middle, because sometimes life can be stressful and uncomfortable. That compression can be really, really tough. Really tough. And he says one of his tricks for kind of like navigating that compression and keeping it in perspective as a part of the drama of life is to look at his life as like an episode of a television show. And say, oh my gosh, Pete just got in a car wreck. What's going to happen next? Like what a cliffhanger. What's going to, what's next? And I think that was such an interesting, Peaches got his heart broke. Oh no, like Peaches got the job. Hooray. But like, what's going to happen now? There's like a lot of, I don't know. I think it's a really great way of thinking about it is not
Putting
to
some
like have
narrative to
main, yeah, like not that it's like you need to have main character syndrome and look down on other people and think that your story is more important. But if you could just love the drama of your
enjoy
own
it
life
as a story.
in a healthy way, yeah,
Mhm.
as a story, yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's really powerful.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out Pete Holmes.
Shout out to Pete Holmes. You made it weird.
Yeah.
He's good. All right. Well, we're going to cut the podcast off right there. Dude, I had a lot of fun showing you my charts. And thanks for showing me.
That was a good chart time.
Good chart time.
Should do this
That's
more
what I'm
often.
going to call the episode. Good chart time.
Yeah. That was some good chart time.
All right. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. And then let's hang out a little bit longer, Max. Thanks for everybody for stopping by. We'll see you next Sunday for our podcast. And then on Tuesday, Max is going to be doing some technical web development tutorial, and it's going to be lit. So see you guys. Bye.
Ciao, everybody.
Wait, I'm leaving the studio. I want to leave. I just need to end. How do I end? Okay, bye. For real this time.